Welcome to Securing Your Brand with SecureMark Legal. On this podcast, we break down the legal side of branding and protecting your business without the legalese. From trademark, copyright, and contracting tips to real-world case studies, we're here to help you safeguard your business, your brand, and reputation. We are here to help entrepreneurs, creatives, and business owners protect what they've built through smart, strategic IP solutions.
Welcome back to Securing Your Brand with SecureMark Legal, a podcast where we talk about how to build, grow, and protect your business through smart branding and trademark strategies. I'm Melissa Jeda, a trademark attorney who loves to help entrepreneurs protect their brand and build what they have worked so hard for.
And I'm Holly McFall, your co-host, trademark and copyright attorney. Each month, we sit down with industry leaders, entrepreneurs, brand experts, and explore the intersection between creativity, business growth, and legal protection. Today, we're excited to welcome back Jesus Caseres, who joined us here on our show previously to talk about cybersecurity risks and how to deal with and prevent them in our businesses. It was such an engaging and informative conversation, and we received such positive feedback and requests for more topics to hear from Jesus. So we just had to have him back to dive into some more areas that directly impact our small business clients.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back, and I'm happy to continue the conversation.
Jesus Caseres is the director of QEH2 Miami, working with local business owners to ensure their technology is reliable, secure, aligned with how their business operates day to day. He takes practical, thoughtful approach to IT, focusing on clarity, trust, long-term stability, rather than quick fixes and unnecessary complexity.
As a Miami native and business owner himself, Jesus understands the demands of the local market and prides himself on being accessible, proactive, and accountable to the organizations he supports.
Welcome back again. So let's talk today, like the general operations of business. Let's start off with, what do you think business owners should be thinking about IT in the context of the overall operation, not just when something isn't working?
Sure. Great question, Melissa. So I think the best way to think about IT is like the operating system for the business, right? It's not just a help desk or somewhere to call when you forgot your password. It's how the work really gets done, right? It's email, scheduling, payments, storing your client data, the phones, and collaborating. So IT isn't just, is my Wi-Fi working? It's, can my team do their jobs reliably? And can I scale without any major issues? So when IT is aligned with your operations, it just makes everything so much easier. There's fewer interruptions, there's faster onboarding, and just less risk, right?
So from your perspective, how does IT intersect with areas like legal compliance, branding, and day-to-day decision-making?
I mean, I think we're attached at the hip, IT and legal and branding, because it really controls who can access what data is stored, and how communications are protected. So from a brand standpoint, one impersonation email or exposed client list can really damage trust faster than any marketing campaign can repair, right? So also from a compliance standpoint, a lot of our clients have to comply with HIPAA or FINRA because they handle finance or patient data. So the owners really need to show reasonable safeguards like access controls and audit trails, etc. So if you're sending contracts or have sensitive client documentation, it really matters whether you're using a secured sharing platform with permissions versus just attaching an email to a personal inbox or something like that.
Yeah, that's really important, especially when you're storing data. In today's day and age, almost all businesses do, whether it's like payment data, their medical, their financial data, even just like their service and, product data is still personal data that we all store on our computer and we're storing within our systems. So if we're going to start thinking about this more, intentionally, we're thinking about our technology intentionally, what are the first 2 or 3 improvements that we should start doing now in that thinking forward instead of just, something broke?
Absolutely. And when we're talking about return on investment, right, business owners always want to see that return. So I think number one is to standardize your tools and kind of where the data lives. So emails, files, passwords, just pick one system and make it the default, right? When you have information living in 5 different places, it's going to create constant friction, especially when you have to hire somebody or offboard somebody. That's where a lot of that tribal knowledge can really affect you. Another one is to get your devices on a basic management. That's where we come in. So that's where we make sure that laptops and desktops are updated, protected, and consistent, right? The most random issues normally come from like an old computer or an inconsistent software, or there's no real patch routine. So having them under basic management makes everything a lot smoother. And then just making reliability the most intentional thing, I think. It's internet, it's Wi-Fi, it's your backup. So think of your internet and Wi-Fi like electricity. If it's flaky, then the productivity is going to die quickly. So backup shouldn't just be a security topic, it's an operations topic. Can you recover fast if something breaks so you can continue being productive and operational?
Are there any changes that you often recommend that business owners are surprised to learn make a meaningful difference?
Yeah, definitely. Having a real onboarding and offboarding process, like I said, even a simple checklist, that can save you hours and prevent chaos. New hires are going to be productive on day one, and then people who leave don't take that knowledge or access with them. And something that helps people immediately too is replacing that computer problem with a life cycle plan. So if the business can, you know, have a 3 to 4 year refresh cycle, that changes everything, because a lot of businesses have one or two aging machines that create like 80% of all of the headaches.
That's kind of crazy that like
Hmm.
my old laptop, which I'm not willing to give up, even though our IT department yells at me all the time, is gonna now you're just reinforcing what they say, and I'm gonna
It's
have to
for a
update my
reason.
laptop. I have my
Yeah.
new laptop. The office bought me a new laptop. Thank you very much. But I haven't switched over to it yet. All right, less of me. Let's get back to the purpose. All right, talking about the hiring department, and departures. Let's get into that. Let's talk about how that creates unexpected IT challenges. What are the most common issues you see around employee access and setting that up? What are some of the things that we should be looking at?
Right. So the two biggest risks are the lingering access. So when that employee leaves, they still have access. And then the data is scattered in their personal accounts. So that's a big, big problem. So when people leave with access to their emails or to files or the CRM or banking tools, and nobody kind of remembers where all those places were added, that's a big risk and a big problem. So if work is happening in that employee's personal Gmail or Dropbox or text messages, even, that business doesn't fully own its own information. And that's the scary part, right? So having the control and those unique logins is going to help you kind of prevent the common issues that you see when an employee kind of leaves.
So that should all probably start when the employee gets onboarded and they start with the company.
Right. So that onboarding piece is especially most important, so that their identity is identified right away in the computer, right? So that the computer and the employee match. And everything that the employee does is maintained in one single place. And you have complete control over it, because it's the business information should belong to the business.
Having those standard procedures in place and making sure that your onboarding is set up and you're going from being you know reactive to being proactive, setting things up ahead of time is really important to how your business runs and operates. And that also comes into play with cyber insurance. I know our insurance agent has talked a lot about cyber insurance, and what is that, what is those, and what's your perspective on that, Jesus?
Sure. So what these insurance companies want to see is that you're doing the basics, and you're not just doing the basics, you're doing them consistently, especially around, identity and recovery. So they want to see MFA everywhere. They want to see EDR or endpoint detection. They want to make sure that you're patching all of your things and you're testing your backups and you have security policies and training in place. It's a lot to chew for your standard business owner. So that's where we come in. We make sure that you're going to be covered, so that when something happens and that audit comes in, we checked all the boxes so that you can get that payout or have that benefit of your cyber insurance policy. Because a lot of times you fill out these forms, or you have your IT guy fill out these forms, and those discrepancies is, where the problems get to. So If somebody compromises your email, can they take over your business? That's what these questionnaires pretty much boil down to. And MFA and access controls answers all of that beautifully.
Is cyber insurance something that all small businesses need these days?
That's a good question. I feel like if the business relies on customer data, and if the risk of that customer data getting exposed, right, is big, I think cyber insurance is huge, is very well recommended.
Are there common mistakes or gaps that put businesses at risk of coverage issues or claim denials?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest risk is that misalignment between what the application says and what's actually implemented. Um, a lot of times there's controls in theory, but they haven't been enforced, right? So MFA is optional, it's not required. That's a big mistake. And then another big one is no proof of a maintenance. So there's no patch records, there's no backup testing, no documentation. As a legal team, you guys know that documentation or die, right? So
Right.
if a policy requires MFA and an incident happens through an account without MFA, you've got a big problem. And it's not just technical, it's documenting and it's being consistent.
We know from the cybersecurity episode that an MFA is that multi-factor authentication or that two-factor authentication that you made us, so aware of.
That MFA piece, right? When you log in, you have to receive a text message on your phone or through an email. It's that two-step thing that the system checks if you are who you say you are. That's pretty much what MFA is, multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, so it's important to know what your policy requires of you so that you're not paying your insurance premiums year after year. And then when you finally need it, it's denied because you're not following on what you're required to in your policy.
You hit the nail on the head, Holly, because the first thing they're going to do is, did you do everything you said you do? Oh, you didn't? That's on you.
We're always looking for a reason to deny claims.
That's getting slightly
Unfortunately.
political there. When we talk about like business continuity, so we talked about like our standard operating procedures. We talked about making sure we have all of our steps in place that are necessary for our cyber insurance in case we have a claim. Like, what is that besides those things? What does it realistically look like for a small business that you're having this business continuity?
Yeah, people think business continuity or disaster recovery, right? These things are meant for like these big businesses, but all it really means is if something goes wrong, can we still operate, right? It's not enterprise disaster recovery, it's just practical stuff, right? These are real world applications. So what's your plan if your email goes down or the internet drops or the laptop is stolen or the files get encrypted? These things happen. It's a practical necessity at this point. So for a professional services firm, for example, continuity might mean having cloud backups, right? Having that data live somewhere else, or having a spare device if that laptop gets stolen or it breaks during a very crucial time. And then a documented way to like reroute phones, for example, to keep, production going at the same pace within just a few hours.
So again, kind of like another cheat sheet, right? So if something disrupts your business, you don't go into panic mode. You go and look at what does continuity plans say we should do and follow that.
Exactly. This gives you that peace of mind that don't panic. We've thought about this already. Here's what we're going to do. Let's keep the engine humming.
Yeah, it kind of goes into that, okay, IT is more than just making sure the internet is running. It goes into that, what should we be thinking about ahead of time? So email disruptions, telephone disruptions, what are other disruptions that we should be thinking about and we should be prepared for without overcomplicating it?
Right. That's a great question. It's a lot. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with anxiety of all of these things that you can worry about, but I like to kind of put them into categories, right? So things to think about is your people. So if there's a key person out or if there's a staff turnover, another one is your technology. So if there's an outage, ransomware, there's a device that's not failing. Third parties is the major one, right? So if you really rely on a vendor and their systems go down, what do you do, right? Not so long ago, there was a major outage for car dealerships that they were using a platform that almost all car dealerships use so that they see each other's inventory. That went down and they had a lot of downtime, but they weren't really prepared on what happens when, because everybody relied on this third party. And then obviously, lastly, that physical kind of um, disruptions like a storm or a theft or somebody breaks into the office, things like that. So those are the four major categories I think that business owners should be thinking ahead of time. And then we help kind of prepare them without making things so complicated.
If they want to take a practical step, so our business owners that are listening, they're like, okay, I need to start taking a practical step like today. Where should you start? Like if, okay, our risks are employees, internet, email, where are we starting? So we start with the basics today.
Yeah, pick up the phone and call me, right? No, but
Exactly. That's what you're supposed to do.
I mean, if it was me, I think just you can't protect what you can't see and you can't plan for things you don't know. So the first practical step is to create a basic inventory, right? Who has which accounts, what devices each person has, and what data is critical. You're going to write down your core systems and, okay, what happens when this goes down? And then plan for each. You're going to be surprised on how much peace of mind that alone is going to create. And obviously, if you want help, I'm happy to meet. My team and I can help, map it out quickly and recommend any next steps. So we would be like the shortcut.
So that would kind of be like, okay, I'm taking an inventory. I know what I have. Now I'm going to call you and say, okay, now how do I protect this? What do I do from here?
Exactly. But a lot of times, business owners want to solve something quickly. We're the problem solvers, right? Everybody comes to us with problems. So we'll just walk into a Best Buy and just buy something, plug it in, log in, and that's it. But you forget. And then these things is like a hodgepodge of technology that don't really interface well together and things like that. So having that inventory, having not just that physical inventory list, but access list and who can access what, things like that, that's a great starting point for us to have a really valuable conversation on how to make this operations more effective, more efficient.
So we've talked about foundation here and how to protect our business to be less reactive and more proactive. What are our top 3 tips that we're giving our small business entrepreneurs to do today?
Right. So for me, the top 3 things are, having a basic ticket log of, for example, what broke, how often is it breaking, who broke it, because sometimes the major issue is the user. That's the first thing, just having that log, that documentation, right, that we love. That device inventory is huge, right? How old something is, the warranties on it, what versions of software you've got running on it, and then noting any reoccurring outage patterns. So anytime the internet drops or any specific apps, noting that time of day, when and where it happens. Once you see patterns, we can really fix root causes. So that'll definitely help us fix things so that they're running operationally and these things don't happen.
I really appreciate the fact that those first 2 tips, I could point at myself and be like, yeah, I'm the problem here, including my old laptop. So thank you for your perspective. Now, Jesus, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for walking us through how IP fits into our broader business operation and protection, things that we really need to think about for our business.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. These conversations are important because, IT isn't separate from operations. It's part of how businesses stay stable and grow.
Jesus, would you like to let our audience know how they can get in touch with you?
Oh, absolutely. The best way, again, is to just call me at 786-768-0918. You could email me here at jcaseres@qh2.com or just connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always available.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to Securing Your Brand with SecureMark Legal. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur.
Holly and I are here to answer all your brand protection questions, and we're happy to get you in touch with Jesus. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.